He promised to free the internet, and then he vanished. No arrest record, no obituary, just silence, and fragments of code still alive in the dark corners of the web, quietly whispering his name, Null. For years, digital forensics teams have stumbled upon traces of his architecture buried beneath encrypted traffic, small, recursive packets that shouldn't exist anymore. Yet somehow they do. To his followers, these fragments aren't data. They're proof that Null never really disappeared. Proof that somewhere, in a place no government can reach, he's still rewriting the rules of the digital world. Null wasn't just another hacker. He was a reformer, a digital idealist who saw the internet not as a product or a weapon, but as the last pure form of democracy. To him, every firewall was a border, every password a checkpoint. He once wrote, "The web was meant to connect us, but somewhere along the way, we got trapped inside it." He wasn't chasing chaos. He was chasing clarity, and for a while, it almost worked. Among his earliest followers was Ria, a systems engineer who called him the closest thing to a digital prophet. She believed his dream could rebuild democracy, a network where no one could be silenced and no one could rule. But what she didn't see, what no one did, was how fast dreams rot when they touch reality. It began after the data wars, a global scandal that exposed how governments and corporations were using private backdoors to track their own citizens. Null saw it as betrayal. He decided to fight back, not with protests or petitions, but with code. He spent years designing an open-source protocol called Eidolon, an invisible network designed to be untraceable, incorruptible, and self-governing. A network so secure that even the servers hosting it wouldn't know what they were carrying. Imagine a system with no center, no master switch, a web that couldn't be shut down. That was his revolution. When he released it to the public, the world changed overnight. Activists in censored nations used it to share truth. Journalists used it to speak to whistleblowers. But so did cybercriminals, rogue agents, even arms brokers. The code didn't care who used it, and that's when everything began to spiral. Governments saw it as a threat. Corporations saw it as chaos. To them, Null had just handed the world a loaded weapon and told everyone to aim wherever they pleased. At first, he denied responsibility. He claimed freedom would sort itself out, that once people were unshackled, balance would return. But he was wrong. Within months, Eidolon was everywhere. Servers in Iceland, backups in Estonia, mirror nodes in Singapore, multiplying faster than anyone could contain it. When banks, hospitals, and intelligence agencies started finding fragments of his code inside their own systems, panic turned to policy. That's when the task forces were born. The media called him the ghost in the wires. Western intelligence labeled him a cyber anarchist. But that word never fit. He wasn't against order, he was against control. And that difference terrified them. Because here's the part no one tells you. Freedom looks noble until someone actually achieves it. As governments scrambled to contain the spread, Ria realized what was coming. She begged him to stop, to take it offline before it collapsed under its own chaos. But Null refused. He said, "You can't shut down an idea that doesn't belong to anyone." His calm frightened her more than any threat could. That was the moment she turned. A week later, the betrayal came. Ria, the one who believed most, sold the core encryption keys to an intelligence broker. Within days, hundreds of Eidolon users were exposed. Journalists vanished. Activists disappeared. Servers went dark one by one. When Null found out, he didn't rage. He didn't run. He simply said, "If they erase me, the code will keep breathing." And then he vanished. Before disappearing, Null released one final update, a self-propagating patch that scattered fragments of Eidolon across thousands of hidden nodes. Even if one was destroyed, another would awaken. He called it the Hydra Protocol. Then came the silence. His devices wiped clean, his accounts erased, his trail gone. But what happened next changed everything. Weeks later, encrypted data logs appeared across dark web forums. Each carried his unique cryptographic signature. At first, people thought it was a hoax, until one file surfaced titled The Declaration of Digital Independence. Inside, he wrote, "Freedom isn't the absence of control. It's the right to choose who controls you." Those 14 words became scripture. Activists printed them on banners. Hacktivists turned them into slogans. Across underground communities, Null became more than a person. He became a ghost that refused to be deleted. But here's where the story takes a darker turn. Because freedom, when unbounded, mutates. As Eidolon evolved, splinter factions modified the code for power, laundering crypto, building black markets, even crafting intelligence networks. The tool meant to fight control became the foundation for new empires of secrecy. Null's utopia had become everyone's weapon. Even then, the code refused to die. Classified programs, Project Nullification, Firewatch, Atlas Strike, spent billions trying to erase it. But every time they thought it was gone, it came back. A server in Prague, a university in Kyoto, a satellite echoing ghost packets into the void. It adapted like it was alive. One leaked NSA memo described it best. "We're not fighting a network. We're fighting an organism." The irony? The same agencies that once hunted Null began studying his architecture. His encryption became the blueprint for their next-generation surveillance systems. The freedom he built was now reinforcing the cages he fought to break. And yet, something strange lingered. Engineers studying deep AI models kept finding hidden recursive loops, tagged with one phrase, /Null was here. Years passed. The myth survived. New hackers adopted his name, Null 7, Null X, Null Dust, each trying to revive the legend, but none matched the original's clarity. Then, one night in 2023, a dormant satellite network came online. It broadcast an encrypted signal using his original cipher. The message was short. "I didn't disappear. I just disconnected." No trace, no source. But the world noticed. Was it him? A copycat? Or the network itself, now sentient from decades of evolution? No one could agree, but one truth remained. Null had become something larger than his own name. Maybe he didn't want to free the internet from control. Maybe he wanted to show us that control and chaos are inseparable, two halves of the same broken mirror. Because the story of Null isn't about a man who vanished. It's about what happens when an idea refuses to. No one ever found his body. No login ever reappeared. But the packets kept moving. Today, his fingerprints remain in the systems we trust most. In the encryption that protects our messages. In the firewalls that both guard and trap us. His dream became the backbone of the very machine he tried to liberate. So when people say Null disappeared, maybe they're wrong. Maybe he didn't fade into the dark web. Maybe he became it. Maybe every encrypted packet we send carries a fraction of his ghost. Silent, defiant, eternal. Because some ghosts don't haunt the past. They haunt the future. And this one never left.